We are continuing revisiting the map of self care. Over the last 1 year, I had done almost 50 plus videos talking about a map of self care, looking at self care as a all encompassing thing and not just looking at piecemeal, I need to do this, I need to do this, but looking at the whole picture and seeing how I can set up a framework that I can take care of myself, because our needs of self care change with time, with situations, and with what is going on in my life right now. So, understanding this framework would be able to help us better take care of ourselves. So, we did this weekly video for the last 1 year. And once that entire video was over, I thought that we would go through weekly Facebook Lives, revisiting the entire framework. It's wonderful for me to just go through all the content that we had covered over the 1 year. And I think it's wonderful for you as well that you get to look at the entire framework in just a few weeks rather than 50 plus weeks. So far in this revisiting the framework, we looked at the foundation, which is self love, acceptance, self awareness, and we also covered the physical needs and the energetic needs. Last week, we looked at emotional needs, the first three needs, which is looking at a new framework for understanding our needs. And in this framework, we had five different stages, and these five stages would take us through different aspects, and our needs in each stage is very, very different. So, that is a unique framework for understanding our emotional needs. But then, once that framework was ready, I realized that framework can be used not just for our emotional needs, but also for all the other needs as well. So, it's a universal framework. We also looked at the second aspect, which is understanding the two kinds of fear. And those two kinds of fear, there is one fear that needs to be honored and taken seriously. And there's another kind of fear that needs to be crossed, that needs to be pushed through. And knowing the difference and knowing that as we move from different stages of our needs, each time we need to push ourselves through this fear to go to the next stage. And that is the two kinds of fears. And the third thing we looked at last week was that we could easily switch from a downward spiral of emotions, and all of us have experienced that, to a upward spiral of emotions just by looking at one stage, and that is the stage of release. Release of any kind helps us move upward, and when we don't release, we sort of slide backwards. So, this is the framework that we looked at. Um, the first three is what we looked at last week, and today we are going to look at these four. And this is the framework. That was the very first one. Each one of us moved through safety, comfort, growth, release, and renew. And we need to understand the fear so we can push ourselves through each of the stages. And the upward and downward spiral all focuses on this stage, which is release. The moment we are able to release old stuff, old baggage, we are able to move forward to the renewal stage. And if we are not able to release, we sort of slide back. And that is the most important understanding, that release is paramount. We sometimes people go through decades of old stuff still with them. And unless we are able to process it, accept it, recognize it, and release it, uh, there is no renewal. We are stuck in thought patterns, emotional patterns that are decades old. So, this release process becomes very, very crucial. So, today, uh, like I said, there's a beautiful picture showing the spiral. the release stage, which is crucial for both the upward and the downward spiral of emotions. So let's look at the message of a negative emotion. What does a negative emotion tell us? Before we discuss what is this message of a negative emotion, uh, I would like to say this, that there is no such thing as a negative emotion and a positive emotion. Emotion is emotion. It moves us. It is the impetus that allows us to move. Motion. Motion is movement, and emotion is the one that powers our movement. So even a so-called negative emotion is something that's going to bring movement in our life. And we classified it as negative emotions because we don't know what to do with it. And we are uncomfortable dealing with it. And sometimes we have this perception that I am like this, I cannot be angry. I am like this, I am spiritual, or I am at peace, I cannot be angry. Everybody can be angry. Everybody can be upset. Everybody goes through grief. So, knowing that emotion doesn't decide who you are before it arrives, emotion is just a courier. And that is what this week's message was all about, is that every negative emotion, so-called negative emotion, is a courier, is a messenger. And if the messenger is very, very conscientious, they are going to wait until they hand over the message personally to us. So if I am not ready to decode what the message of my negative emotion is, say, let's say anger, if I'm not ready to decode what the message under my anger is, my anger is going to lurk because it's a messenger. It's just going to wait around until I am ready to go and meet that anger and take the message. And the moment the anger says, okay, here is your courier, please take this, I take it, anger goes away. And it's as simple as that. We spend a lot of time and effort trying to suppress our emotions, deal with our emotions. Sometimes it is just nice to sit with our emotions and say, okay, anger, what is it you're trying to tell me? And most of the emotions have the message that they bring to us is that there is something important that you need to look at. So if I am angry at some situation, maybe in that situation there was a need that I had which was not met. And instead of being able to identify this need was there in this particular situation, I have not been able to meet it. Instead of looking at it that way, I'm just saying, oh, I got angry. And others around me are going to say, oh, that person always gets angry. If we were able to sit with our anger in silence and say, okay, tell me what it is, maybe the need in that situation is one of control. And control is not necessarily a bad thing. I need to know what's happening. Maybe I needed some control and I was feeling helpless. I was feeling like I had no say in this. And if I needed to control that situation in some way, and I had no say, I could do nothing about it, maybe that was also an indication that whatever was there was important to me. And my inner consciousness, my inner subconscious mind was not processing all these thought processes. It just sent out anger. And the moment I get a negative emotion, it's like it's a signal. Something is here, pay attention. So let's pay attention to some of the emotions. And the moment I realized that this is what was happening, it was easier for me to work with my own emotions because I could then very easily say, okay, and it's not like I'm perfect. I don't get angry. I do get angry. I do get upset. I do get irritated. The what has helped me, this thought process, what has helped me is most often I would have dealt with anger as a problem, but anger is a messenger. And the moment I'm able to take that messenger's message, my attention shifts from anger as a problem to a need that has been identified. How can I get that control, for example? So maybe the places that I am looking at, I'm not getting control. Maybe there are other ways that I can find control. And if I'm able to shift my gear, mental thinking gear, to what it is that I need to do, then I'm shifting myself from a problem to a solution. And this shift automatically deletes the anger out of the picture because anger has done its work. It's just wanted to highlight to me this is important, pay attention. And the moment I'm paying attention, I don't need to worry about anger. And this may sound very simplistic, but sit with it for a while. Take something small, not a very, very big, huge emotion that's been with you for years. Take something very small, experiment with it, be curious with it, and say, okay, what is my need here in this particular situation? And most of the time, and we did a lot of workshops last year, I think 3 or 4 workshops, I'm enough workshops. And some of the participants will all be able to share this that in every workshop, the underlying need was a handful of needs, universal needs, no matter what the emotion was. When people sat with that with that emotion, we sort of came to a natural conclusion that there are only very basic needs. One is control, another is validation, and a few others. So, looking at this and decoding and saying, how can I provide for that underlying need is a very big part of taking care of our emotional self. So, that was the fourth week where we talked about message of a negative emotion. So, let's look at the fifth one. The fifth week, we talked about emotional independence. We all aim for physical independence. Children like to have their own space. They like to be by themselves, leave the parents' homes, physical independence. Most of us long for financial independence. I'm adding another level of independence, which is emotional independence. And to understand that no matter what happens to us as adults, it is our responsibility to take care of our emotional needs. We do not get training in this modern life to take care of our emotional needs. We do not. And as a result, it's trial and error. This works, that works, maybe just go out with friends. And invariably, what happens with all of this is that we start having some kind of addiction, whether it's a food addiction, drinks, smoking, shopping, um, binge watching something, going out with friends, food, or just self development as well, going on workshop after workshop. All of these are just this desire to find our own emotional, taking emotional independence. So once we are able to understand that there's nobody and nothing outside us that's going to give us um, our emotional support, that we need to be self sufficient in taking care of ourselves, then it is easier for us to say, okay, I need to do this. Let me get up and start working on it. So, when we take responsibility, something magical happens. And what is that something magical that happens? Is that firstly, I stop depending on somebody else to make me happy, to take care of my needs. And this is something radical because as people in this modern world, we have always depended on others or outside source, whether it's people, whether it's situation, for being happy. And happiness is one of the most important emotional needs. I know that for a long time, whenever I would be upset, I would just think of my father. It still happens even though he's no longer with me physically. The moment I think of my father, it would make me happy. And if I talk to my father, no matter how bad a mood I was in, and till I was in my late 40s, this was still the case. No matter how bad a mood I was in, just talking to my father was enough to shift me out of that mood. Some people in our lives have that ability. Some places in our life have that ability. Connecting with nature has that ability. And emotional independence means knowing I'm responsible for shifting myself out of a bad mood, knowing that something is bothering me. Very often, we are not even having that awareness that I'm going through a difficult emotion. It's because it's all suppressed, it's all gone underground. So, firstly, emotional independence means knowing something has upset me, and then knowing that I am responsible for pulling me out of that. And thirdly, taking the steps necessary to pull me out of that hole. But that alone is not enough. Sometimes we do need others' help, really. And emotional independence then is to know when I cannot manage by myself, when I need others' help, no matter what kind of help, knowing when it is time for me to get outside help, that also is emotional independence. And I wish as a society, we are able to teach our youngsters what it means to be upset and what it means to take care of our to be responsible for our own emotions and our own happiness as well. And this is something that is very close to my heart because I think emotional independence is something that is not being talked about a lot. And we need to start empowering ourselves and empowering our children and the next generation to take responsibility. One simple way, I'm a big fan of hugs, and one simple way that we could, a tool that we could give ourselves and others as well, is to just give each other hugs. And in this pandemic, maybe I'm living alone. How do I do this process? Um, I have I have a pseudo partner here, and this can work equally well. But before I show you this, why a hug? What's so special about a hug? A hug of at least 30 seconds releases a neurotransmitter called oxytocin. And when the brain releases that oxytocin, it is also called a feel good hormone. So, if you go back to your childhood when things looked very bleak, you fell down, or you lost a game, or you lost a toy, something very bad happened, and you rushed home and were hugged by an adult and soothed by an adult. And after a few minutes of that hug, suddenly the world seemed manageable. What happened there is that the hug released oxytocin, and that oxytocin in our blood makes the world feel much better. It's a fantastic way of feeling good, and it's a fantastic way for us to learn. It's a tool for us. It's just one of the tools that we can use to reset our emotions. The beautiful thing about a hug, and people have done studies with this, is that when I receive a hug, my oxytocin is released. That's understandable. When I give a hug, also my oxytocin is released. So the giver of a hug and the receiver of the hug both get benefits from it. That we can understand. What they found through study is that a third person watching this interaction between the person who is giving and receiving the hug. So they are not doing anything other than observing it. And this can work even with videos. Just watching two people hugging each other in a loving manner released the oxytocin of the observer. So a hug is fantastic. And because the brain does not know the difference between what is real and what is visualized, a pillow will work equally well. So if I'm able to hold a pillow and lean into this hug for 30 seconds or more, you're going to feel the difference. Let me know when you are watching this, when you want to try it out and see how it impacts you. This is one of the tools. There are many other tools. Just knowing that I'm responsible for my own emotional welfare and well being, that is the theme of the fifth week, which is emotional independence. Let me move on to the next one, happiness. Everybody wants to be happy. There's nobody who doesn't want to be happy. Happiness is a need. Why is it a need? Because we all need to be happy. At the same time, it's also a gift. It is a gift because it is available to all of us equally. If it is available to all of us equally, why is it that the entire world is searching for happiness? It's a very deep question. I'm not here to look at very deep answers right now. Just asking a question for reflection. Why are we searching for happiness if it's available to everybody equally? Think about that. Happiness is available to all of us, but we don't realize it's available because there is something that we need to do to feel that happiness. It's available, but I need to do something for it. Air is available everywhere. Oxygen is available everywhere, but I need to breathe it in. Only then it's available to me. Luckily for us, oxygen is so crucial for us that the nature has made it automatic. Happiness can also be automatic, but we need to put in the effort. When we say be happy, the word be is a verb. We need to do something about it. And what is that something that we need to do? So, this framework that I have is a simple framework, and we can use this framework especially when we are going through a difficult time, when that happiness is not easy to come by. And by doing the actions through this three-step process, we are building the happiness muscle. Like any other muscle, we talked about gratitude as a muscle a few weeks back. Like any other muscle, that happiness muscle needs to be strengthened, needs to be nurtured. So, what are the three steps that we need to do? It's a gift, it's a need, and our responsibility. So, the first step is, say I am going through a tough time, I'm not happy. So, what can I do? I can sit down and think about all the things that make me happy. Theory. It's fine, theory. And as you start making that list, you will realize that there are people who make you happy. And some people you don't even have to interact or call and talk. Some people just thinking about them. Like if I think about my father, even now, it makes me happy. And there are some people with whom, when you interact, it makes you happy. So the people who make you happy. And there are some people who inspire you. You don't know anything, you don't know them personally. You watch them on videos or in um, events, and they make you happy. And that's wonderful. So make a list of all the people that make you happy, all the things that make you happy, all the actions that you do that make you happy. Make a list of all of that. And then start organizing your day in such a way that every 1 hour you have something that makes you happy. And when I talk about happiness, it's not like no happiness or perfect happiness. It's a scale, and you can find different things in that scale. So, for example, a cup of tea makes me happy, a ginger tea, ginger chai makes me happy. I start my day with that. And somewhere along, then I add in something else. So, every 1 hour or every 2 hours, I slot in things that make me happy. A action, a thing, a call to a person. So, making sure that I have things, people, events that make me happy fitted in throughout the day. And some of these, they don't need to be very big things, right? So it could just be a small step. And that is okay because we are training the happiness muscle, and that's perfectly all right. So try this for yourself. In your day, what are the things that make you happy? And as you're doing, and are you aware that these are the things in your day that are making you happy? If you can prepare a list of 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 items that you normally do in a day, then you don't need to listen to this anymore. But if you are struggling to look at what are the things that make me happy, then start becoming aware. How can I start fitting more things in my day that will make me happy? So that's the first step. Once we are doing sufficiently, then we may find that without much effort, I'm happy today. I don't think I did anything special, but I feel happy today. Once I am in that stage, then let's sort of revisit it and say, okay, I'm happy. What made me happy today? What is it that has contributed to this happiness? So reverse engineer that happiness and see what are the things that are making me happy, which I was not even aware of. And you may find maybe I did something wonderful. I created something, or I gave a presentation. Whenever I have these Facebook lives, after that, I feel happy for, for a long period. So this is giving me happiness. So reverse engineer, find out what is it that makes me happy, and build more and more of that into your life. So that's going to help you. That's the second stage. And the third stage is to be happy for no reason. So don't need to find what is it that makes me happy. I can just be happy like that. And not only can I be just happy like that, I can sustain that happiness without much effort for a period of time. And this is the happiness muscle that we can build for ourselves through effort. And that's where that be happy, that verb becomes important. It is an effort, it's an inner effort, it's an effort of awareness, it's an effort of taking the actions to make me happy. And very often, when we are going through a very difficult time, the one thing that is guaranteed to make us happy is the ability to help someone else. When I am able to volunteer my time and contribute to someone else's happiness, even though I may be going through a difficult time, then that is guaranteed. That's really going to bring happiness to me. And that's why volunteering is a fantastic way to bring happiness into our lives. So that was the sixth need that we had. And the last one was love. When we talk about love, in Greece, they've talked about different kinds of love. All of those, they are there on the screen. You can have a look at it. And I added two more, which we understand in India from Sanskrit, and that is Vatsalyam and Bhakti. Vatsalyam is mother's love, Bhakti is devotion. Devotion to a person, to a idea, to your work. It could be any of those. That's Bhakti. And of all of these kinds of love, the most important is self love. I want to talk about self love because when we talk about love and say, I want to love others or I want to receive love from others, both of those are dependent on how much I love myself. When I love myself, when I accept myself, that self love allows me to receive love from others. That allows me to give love to others. If at any point I am struggling to either receive love or to give love, then instead of focusing on the other person, let's just look at ourselves. Can I love myself? Can I accept myself? Where I am, what I'm doing without judging myself. When I'm able to do that, then it allows me to love others, to receive love from others. Very often, we are faced with situations where it's easy for us to give love to others, but it's very difficult to receive love from others. And again, that is because we are not able to love ourselves. So, just the simple reflection, am I loving myself? Very often, when we talk to ourselves, we talk in a way that we would never ever dare to talk to others. If we can, for a moment, quieten our mind and listen to that conversation that's happening inside us, we say things to us that we would never ever say to the others. That's the amount of self-judgment that goes on. And if we start tuning into that and saying, no, I want to accept myself, I want to love myself. And loving myself means using kinder words, treating myself kindly, accepting myself. When I'm able to do all of that, then it becomes easier for me to love others and to receive love from others. I will leave you with that for today. We are coming to an end on the discussion of emotional self care. Next week, we will look at intellectual self care. Thank you for joining me. This is Nirmala Shekhar signing off. Bye bye. Namaste. Do subscribe and hit the bell button for more weekly content on self care. And if you want even more actionable content on self care, do join me in the Facebook group for weekly lives, discussions, and more tips.